Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with financeandliberty.com, and with us today is Wade Hodges, Director and CEO of Nevada Exploration. Wade, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Elijah. Nice to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd first like to discuss a little bit about the gold market. Now, we've seen this pullback recently. Do you think right now is a good time for people to start accumulating gold and silver or continue to accumulate gold and silver? Or do you think there's a better buying opportunity coming?
Yeah, what's my crystal ball have to say about the future of the gold market? What I can say is that we definitely live in a world of uncertainty. I don't see it getting any simpler. It doesn't make any difference who's going to be elected president. We've still got a lot of people with a lot of different points of view. And gold, in my mind, has always been something that people like for reasons that I don't pretend to necessarily understand the details. There's a lot of differences of opinion on that. But historically, it's something that you can trust. You can look at the pattern and you can say, you know what, the trend is definitely moving up. And so for my money, personally, in my life, every time the price of gold drops, people get concerned and ask this kind of question, I accumulate, I buy, whether it's gold shares or the physical metal. It's served me well. I was raised to always try to do big things. Don't worry too much about what might happen and enjoy the little things of the moment. And being part of gold discoveries has been really exciting. And so what we do is watch for the price of gold to drop. And, a lot of people look at their portfolios and see that, we had a good day in the market, and they're happy. They feel rich. They go out buy dinner or something. For me, it's just the opposite. When the price drops, I get happy because that's the time to accumulate and knowing that it will come back then in the future, and it's worked well.
You said that the presidential election won't affect your outlook for precious metals. Did you want to expand a little bit more on why?
Well, I just see there's so many variables that control the price of gold. There's all kinds of people will discuss them. I mean, the fact that there are so many people with so many different points of view. And as a scientist, the goal is to try to understand what the real fundamental, the root causes are to some of these problems that we all see from our own points of view. And I just find it very difficult to control for all the variables. I see no matter which presidential candidate wins the upcoming election, what goes on in Europe or not, there's so many people, so many different points of view, so much pushing and shoving, if you will, that there's always going to be uncertainty. We're always going to, today's up, tomorrow's down. It's like the weather. If you don't like it, hang out for a few minutes, it's going to change. And so in that context, the only safe way to conduct yourself, in my opinion, is to look at all of this, everything that you might choose to do as an option in financial parlance on a possible outcome. So absolutely, we should all spend our time thinking about and imagining different scenarios with the different combinations of all the variables. But understand that we also need to temper these ideas and concepts with a healthy dose of reality checks. We spend 20 minutes talking about what if. Well, we need to spend about 20 minutes thinking about, let's check the what if against reality. And so what you do is you don't bet the bank on any particular, one thing. You put a small bet on, that could be. That's a possible outcome. And you put another bet over here and so on. And then you watch. And as the situation unfolds, one situation is going to seem to be more likely than another, and you're getting positive results is what you want. You want to be able to have positive results that then allow you to move incrementally in that direction. And that keeps you close to what's really happening. And you don't have to worry so much about, what if I bet wrong? What if it doesn't go this way? What if Hillary Clinton wins? Now what am I going to do? What if Trump wins? Oh no, now what am I going to do? And so you can still, vote the way you feel, but you can still have a life. And no matter who wins, we're still going to have a United States of America. We're still going to have a place in the world. We're going to still have, the sun's going to come up. We're a long ways from various end of the world scenarios that I think a lot of people like to point to. And so we can find a good place to keep our minds paying attention to what happens. And so, I don't know, that's there's a few of my opinions on that subject.
Definitely, and I think those are very, very good points. One thing that I'd also just like to discuss was you've said before that we're living in a peak gold world. Can you discuss a little bit about what you mean by that?
Well, I know there's been some news stories surrounding peak oil. There was concern, supply and demand relationships in the economic scenarios that we're going to be running out of supply is going to be restricted, and so demand is going to go up, and that's going to drive the price of gold higher, and so we should all take comfort in that. But I remember, I think it was, the first I heard it was some sheikh in Saudi Arabia said the Stone Age did not end because we ran out of stones, and the oil age will not end because we run out of oil. And it's just like any of these natural resources. It seems to be intuitively logical that, well, we've got a finite amount of X. And it seems to be the bottom line argument to a lot of people that want to then use that thought to help control and direct, manipulate then, what we all do. Think of the Egyptians coming out on the Nile Delta, farming, and I could see them initially with a wooden plow, and that plow increases the fertility of the land. They're able to have more, larger families because they feed more mouths, and they can support armies, and they can go on, campaigns of adding to their wealth by conquering neighboring communities and so on. So it's important to have this fertile situation and the increased crop products that comes from a technology like plowing. And then somebody comes along and says, yeah, but if we continue to do this, we're going to use up all the wood because we're in a desert and we're going to use up all the wood and we're going to run out of plows and we're not going to be able to sustain ourselves. And then somebody came along with copper to put on and coat the wooden plows that allowed them to conserve, actually, the wood. And, but now we're going to run out of copper because it only came from some small outcrops. And so this argument throughout time has been with us, that we're going to run out of these resources, so we can't do this anymore. And it's just not true. Do a reality check, and the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones. The Bronze Age doesn't end because we ran out of bronze. Okay, what happens is we come up with new ways to combine the same old materials. And it's the same with gold. There's more gold, there's as much gold, there's plenty of gold. It's sitting there. What we lack is the ability to understand where it is and how to find it. And that's what we're about, is continuing to push those, that veil back. And so it's a quest of learning. It's a seeking of knowledge. Part of the reason that I continue to search for gold is it's not just about the money or even the thrill of discovery, as I mentioned before. It's also about the unintended consequences that come from that search. Looking for gold has brought me to an understanding of groundwater and then the chemistry of groundwater and how groundwater moves. Who would have thought? It's no different than when we first started as civilization. Western civilization began with a pretty drab gray scenario, and I can see the hunter coming home and throwing down a rabbit for dinner, and then the person doing the cooking is looking like, well, this is kind of okay, same old stuff. We'll do the best we can. I got to feed the kids and so on. And then somebody brings in some gold, which is very bright. It's yellow, okay? It's shiny. It stays, has this luster. It's a very different, it feels heavy. You can pound it. You can do all sorts of jewelry and stuff with it. And so suddenly we started to formulate groups of people that would then look for this stuff, because in exchange they got, basically special favors of the people that really liked the gold. And so we built navies, we built armies, we cut down forests, we stocked ships, we sailed out the side of the land, and in the process we discovered all kinds of stuff, and it still goes on today.
Now, you're a geologist, and one of the few who's been part of a discovery. Is this thrill of discovery what you're looking for with your company, Nevada Exploration?
Again, that's an interesting question that goes to the reason I think most people think of, when they think of gold and they think of investing, and they all want to be part of that thrill of discovery. It's so many times I have a conversation with people about gold, and they have this image of a prospector and a mule and a gold pan, and things have come so far since then, but that we continue to have that image of eureka. I've discovered it. I found it. And so you get into gold and you think, yeah, I'm going to buy this stock because I understand there's some leverage involved, and so you want to get a gold mine. Everybody wants to own a gold mine. But what they haven't gone through is understanding that the eureka I found it moment is really not part of the business of mining. The business of mining is fraught with cost overruns, regulatory changes, a fixed price structure, high fixed costs, and we're treated with all kinds of discussions about how we're eventually going to find that gold bar coming out of this machine that we build, this processing plant. And that's not the reason that I'm in it. It's that thrill of discovery, which marks a separate part of the business. I like to think of the business of gold mining as two separate businesses. One where you are involved in discovery or exploration and then discovery, and then development and production. There's a lot of groups around that can develop and produce. I think that's where most people feel comfortable because they can see things being ground up and moved around. But in my case, it's the business of successful exploration discovery that leads to the real excitement, and then all the other unintended consequences. In my mind, mining is just an unintended consequence of the thrill of discovery, and so that's totally what it's about. And I was lucky enough to be involved in not just one discovery, but 9. And 30 million ounces later, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to grow up much beyond the old days of the Hardy Boy Mysteries and the treasure of Gold Mountain and stuff. It's just been exciting, and I've never really gotten away from it. So you bet, it's the thrill of discovery.
I was going to ask you, if successful, do you think this could really be a game-changing moment for the mining sector?
Well, yeah, specifically what we're doing, we're not just about finding the next eureka moment, or, wow, we found a gold deposit. Like I said, I've always tried to do big things, and initially I thought being part of a gold discovery. Finding a gold mine was a pretty big thing to work on, and so let's focus on that, not worry too much about what might happen, enjoy the little things of the moment. Well, I did it, several times, and so the problem becomes, well, now what? What's the next big thing you're going to do? And so the next big thing is to not just find one, find several. And to do that, you really need to recognize the history of this process of discovery and exploration, where we've been over the last decade, and a little more involved. But basically, when you pick the low-hanging fruit with the existing technology, you eventually run out of the easy stuff. And it drives you to considering, at the end of the day, new technologies, new ways to make discoveries. And specifically, how can we be more efficient? How we can keep the cost low? Because the tendency is to always drill deeper, to look for more complex metallurgy. The story gets even more complicated. Investors' eyes rolls in the back of their head as they listen to most geologists speak. And really, they're just looking at the results. And for at the end of, about 2000 to 2010, the results weren't there. There were not really the big discoveries coming in proportion to the amount of money that was being spent in exploration, and people started to think, what's happening? Well, to me, it was another opportunity to observe that what we need is better technologies. And so that's what we've been working on. And yes, it is a game-changing moment. If the business of using the chemistry of groundwater to find gold is successful in one place, then there's really a leveraging over how many other places can this technology be used. And that's what we're about. Not really just a game changer, but a paradigm shift, or it's a disruptive technology, I think, is the latest buzzword.
So when it comes to the gold and silver industry, did you want to explain for the viewers what makes Nevada exploration special?
Well, Nevada exploration in the state of Nevada is our focus because Nevada is very unique geologically. It has the highest concentration of multi-million-ounce gold deposits per unit area of any other place on the planet Earth. It holds that status for some very unique reasons. It's like a perfect storm. There's basically several sets of geologic circumstances have come together in the state of Nevada to create a very unique environment for this precious metal. And it's more of a technical story. It's available on our website if anybody is interested in looking. It's been talked about in How the Earth Was Made, a History Channel series. That's excellent. I recommend to anybody that's interested in natural resources of any kind to understand more about how the Earth is made. But basically, Nevada is the spot that if you didn't know anything more, then let's go to where the odds are best. You throw darts at a map of the state of Nevada and see if one of them might not land on a gold deposit. Well, if you add to that knowledge more detailed knowledge and understanding of the exact nature of the gold deposits and where they occur and why they occur where they do, and you realize that most of the gold deposits that have created this huge abundance of past production are located in the existing or the exposed mountain ranges where you can see the rocks. There's plenty of clues to use to follow them to the gold deposit and make a discovery. Well, that same area, you then realize that 60% of that area is covered by sand and gravel, and that there's very few gold deposits that can be found, underneath sand and gravel relative to the ones that have been seen in the mountain ranges. Well, you look further and you realize that situation that's covered most of the state of Nevada happened after the gold deposits are formed. You can develop a very clear understanding that there's every reason to believe that there's just as much gold in Nevada to be discovered as has already been discovered. It just doesn't exist in them their mountains as much as in them their valleys or the areas between the mountain ranges. And it's covered by sand and gravel. And then you add to it the next observation that most of that area is covered by one medium that no one has ever spent any time looking at, and that's groundwater. And that's what we're focused on at Nevada Exploration, is looking at groundwater that has interacted with buried or covered gold deposits. And just as any metal in contact with water will rust or oxidize, and that process releases trace metals into the groundwater that can then be picked up by fancy geochemical analysis. So you can analyze the gold and trace metals in groundwater. You can follow them just like the old timers did with gold pans up a stream bed to the bedrock source to find the mother lode, if you will. And so what we're doing is basically panning for gold, but using modern technology, 21st century mass spectroscopy, to analyze groundwater for very small concentrations of gold and trace metals, plotting their concentrations on a map and going upstream until we no longer have those concentrations. They'll drop off dramatically, and then we look within that 1 to 2 square miles for the bedrock source. And so that's why Nevada is special. That's why Nevada Exploration, our company, is special, because that's what we're focused on.
Now, so what do you see coming in the next couple of years with all the things playing out in your company? What do you see for your company in the next couple of years?
Well, we've had a lot of technical hurdles, obstacles to overcome in the last 10 years. In other words, it's easy to imagine the concept. We're not alone. Other good people have done the same thing. We're really building on the work of the U.S. Geological Survey, the Australian pioneers, and Canadian geologists. What we have done is the technology, the pieces involved in collecting the groundwater sample, in analyzing in a consistent manner with a high degree of quality control via the groundwater analyses, reducing that data, creating the maps, and then integrating it with all the other tools. We're not just using one tool. We're using a number of tools in our experience. And putting all that together has required us to solve a number of technical problems, which we have solved, which is now why we're spending more time talking about with some degree of confidence in that, it's also raised to make promises and then keep them. And it's difficult for me to make a promise if I don't feel that I can, for sure honor it. It's, I guess I'm from the old school where integrity mattered. And so I'm very comfortable now that we can make good on these promises. We do have the technology behind us. We've collected more than 50,000 samples in the state of Nevada, and have reduced that to a number of targets. Some we've collected mineral rights on 5, and we're moving forward aggressively on each of those. We continue to improve the technology of groundwater sample collection. We're far enough ahead, I think, of any competition to really be able to move forward without having. We've got a huge barrier to entry, in other words, to any competition. They're going to have to solve a lot of these problems that we've solved. And so it's only going to make it more powerful, more dynamic when we do finally report that we've got not gold in groundwater, which we have, but we now generated gold in bedrock. And so our focus is on bringing to bear more conventional exploration technologies, basically get into a position to where we can actually drill some of our anomalies, and when they start producing the results of gold in the rock, and I think then that the game-changing event, the eureka discovered at moment, will really begin. I see that happening within the next 2 years. And so I'd encourage anybody that's, hearing this story for this first time to go to NevadaExploration.com and have a look at the website. There's quite a bit of information. I've been told many times that Wade, this is one of the stories that the more I learn about it, the more I like. And I encourage feedback. So I think that's what I see for the future.
All right. Well, Wade Hodges, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, did you want to share with the viewers where they can find you? And if they're interested in investing in your company, how can they do that?
Sure. The simplest way is go to our website, NevadaExploration.com. NevadaExploration.com, all one word. And at that location, you'll find a wealth of information. You can see our contact numbers and more about the details of the story and our history. I encourage everybody to look at, there's some short videos that have been created. You can find them by clicking at the lower left on presentations. I do my best to put together 3D visuals of what it is we're looking for, so it makes it easier for people to understand. You don't have to listen to so much geology jargon and so on. And so we're traded on the TSX in Toronto under the trading symbol NGE, and we also have an OTC QX listing in the U.S. In that exchange we trade under the symbol NVDEF. So I look, and of course we're still not so big that we have a giant group of people that you have to get through to give me a call if you'd like to, pick up the phone and ask additional questions. Pretty easy to get a hold of.
All right. Once again, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Then in the future, it's worked well.
You said that the presidential election won't affect your outlook for precious metals. Did you want to expand a little bit more on why?
Well, I just see there's so many variables in that control the price of gold. There's all kinds of people will discuss them. I mean, the fact that there are so many people with so many different points of view. And as a scientist, the goal is to try to understand what the real fundamental, the root causes are to some of these problems that we all see from our own points of view. And I just find it very difficult to control for all the variables. I see no matter which presidential candidate wins the upcoming election, what goes on in Europe or not, there's so many people, so many different points of view, so much pushing and shoving, if you will, that there's always going to be uncertainty. We're always going to, today's up, tomorrow's down. It's like the weather. If you don't like it, hang out for a few minutes, it's going to change. And so in that context, the only safe way to conduct yourself, in my opinion, is to look at all of this, everything that you might choose to do as an option in financial parlance on gold shares or the physical metal. It served me well. I was raised to always try to do big things. Don't worry too much about what might happen and enjoy the little things of the moment. And being part of gold discoveries has been really exciting. And so what we do is watch for the price of gold to drop. And, a lot of people look at their portfolios and see that, we had a good day in the market, and they're happy. They feel rich. They go out buy dinner or something. For me, it's just the opposite. When the price drops, I get happy because that's the time to accumulate and knowing that it will come back.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with FinanceAndLiberty.com, and with us today is Wade Hodges, Director and CEO of Nevada Exploration. Wade, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Elijah. Nice to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd first like to discuss a little bit about the gold market. Now, we've seen this pullback recently. Do you think right now is a good time for people to start accumulating gold and silver or continue to accumulate gold and silver? Or do you think there's a better buying opportunity coming?
Yeah, what's my crystal ball have to say about the future of the gold market? What I can say is that we definitely live in a world of uncertainty. I don't see it getting any simpler. It doesn't make any difference who's going to be elected president. We've still got a lot of people with a lot of different points of view. And gold, in my mind, has always been something that people like for reasons that I don't pretend to necessarily understand the details. There's a lot of differences of opinion on that. But historically, it's something that you can trust. You can look at the pattern and you can say, the trend is definitely moving up. And so for my money, personally, in my life, every time the price of gold drops, people get concerned and ask this kind of question, I accumulate, I buy, whether it's